Does it look good, Eric?
I'm getting, let's see, 1, 2, yes. All yeses so far.
Okay, perfect. I think that's good news. All right, and I also have with me today Ashley Damascus, who is on my implementation team at Teaching Strategies. And she works with, she's assigned to Kansas, so she works with a lot of you more directly. And she's going to be joining in the presentation as well, delivering some updates towards the end. So I'm just going to start going through the PowerPoint. And as Eric said, please feel free to either type questions in the chat box throughout the presentation, and he can stop and ask them on your behalf, or we will, of course, have time at the end of the presentation for a question and answer session. Okay. My agenda for today is to go through and talk about some long-term plans for Teaching Strategies Gold, give you some updates about the technology infrastructure of Gold, and then we're going to talk about some updates, some specific updates to Gold, as well as other Teaching Strategies products, and then at the end we'll have time for questions and answers. I think that the biggest news that most of you are probably aware of is the fact that Teaching Strategies Gold is in the process of expanding through 3rd grade. So this is something that we're very, very excited about and really affects absolutely everything that we do as it relates to Gold Online, the professional development that we're working on, and other products that we're in the midst of creating. Currently, our authors are developing additional progressions that go through 3rd grade. Our projection at this time is to have the field test for this product in the fall, beginning in the fall of 2013. So we have several classrooms and teachers and outside content reviewers participating in the field test for Gold through 3rd grade. And based on all that feedback that we're going to get through the next program year, we project to be launching the expanded version of Gold Birth through 3rd grade in the fall of 2014. So that's something that we're really, really excited about, and our authors are working hard on it, as well as, of course, our technology people and marketing, as well as everybody who is doing the content and the research on the development of this new tool. What we've been also working on very much in the past, I would say 4 to 6 months, is the stabilization of the Gold Online system. So this is really important to you and us because we have seen a huge increase in the usage of Gold Online in just the past year. So for example, on April 15th of this year, 2013, we had 32,000 people log into Gold Online. Whereas a year ago, April 15th, 2012, we had 22,000 people log into the system. So as you can see, that is a huge increase of usage of the tool, about 41% as a matter of fact. So ever since the system was launched in the online system in July of 2010, we've been analyzing what we need to do to enhance the performance of the system and make the experience of logging in and using the tool for administrators and teachers better. So because of that, what we've done is we've increased our server capacity by about 400% over the past year and a half. So what you're looking at this screen right now is just a summary of what our servers and our infrastructure of Gold behind the scenes looked like in September of 2010. You can see there were 6 application servers, and then we had a primary database server. Moving into just a month after that, in October, we increased our replicating reporting servers and added more database server space so that we could handle the increase of usage of the tool. Then if I flip forward to where we are right now and what we're working on right now for this first quarter of 2013, you can see that we've got up to now 6 replicating reporting servers and now 12 application servers. So all of this is, increasing the speed of the system and making it more user-friendly as far as when you're trying to navigate around and get your input, your data input into the system. We have people monitoring what's going on behind the scenes constantly and making adjustments if we see a spike in usage. We have our people behind the scenes making tweaks so that your experience is not interrupted. And I can tell you also, in the past 12 months, we've had an uptime in our system of 99.72%. So we're working towards keeping that up to 100%, but there are occasional blips in the system that cause things to happen, and usually it's something that we're able to rectify within a matter of minutes. The next thing I wanted to focus on with you, and this is something that's really important because we get a lot of feedback from your programs in particular and customers all the time. So what our process is for receiving and recording feedback from customers like you and everyone across the country is we have a ticketing system. We have a vendor that's called Jira, and we track every piece of feedback that we receive, whether it be through you emailing our implementation email address and giving a suggestion, or having a phone call with someone on our customer service end, whether it's Ashley or someone else from the implementation team or someone from tech support. We're constantly tracking that feedback, adding it into our ticketing system, and then analyzing the frequency of the types of feedback that we're getting, and then making changes to the system based on that very feedback. So I can tell you also, when we first launched Gold, and even back to the days of creativecurriculum.net, things went around a lot differently, in the sense we would get feedback and we would quickly say, oh, that's a great idea, and then like the next day you would maybe see that change on the system. And unfortunately, and I was around when we used to do that, and it was great. But unfortunately, now that's really not possible, because as you heard when I was first giving the numbers of the amount of users on Gold now, we have to be very cautious about making changes to the system without going through the proper checks and balances, and really making sure that any change that we make to the system isn't going to impact the user experience when they're using the system. So we have a much longer turnaround time from getting a piece of feedback from you that I would say almost all the ideas that we get from our customers are great ideas and things that we would actually want to put in place. But the hard part is getting them to the point where we develop them, test them out, and they're at a place where we can launch them, and they would be a user-friendly experience then when the user is in there using them in Gold. So, basically the message is we are tracking all of the feedback that we get from you. It's very, very important to us, and we have a plan in place to analyze the feedback and go through some of them that are minor changes and then others that are larger changes through a calendar plan with timed launches at different points throughout each quarter, or usually there's a launch each month at some point, and some of the launches are just very small changes that are fixes to the system, and the others are very, very large changes, such as the development team working on the expansion of Gold through 3rd grade, which is a very long-term project. What I wanted to go through now were just some of the recent site updates in Gold Online and things that you probably are aware of, but I just wanted to make sure that they were on the front of your mind as we go through some of the other recent changes so that you're aware of everything. So the first one would be just an update and making sure you're aware that for our inter-rater reliability, we have some additional testing options available now. Previously, when teachers were going in to be certified in Teaching Strategies Gold, they would just have the ability to decide if they were doing, that age 3 through kindergarten portfolio or birth through age 2. But now you have the ability to be certified in the including children with disabilities or dual language learners. So you have those different options available as far as different types of certification. I do know that also many teachers who have been using Gold since it was launched in the summer of 2010 are coming to the end of their certification cycle. If you recall, the Inter-Rater Reliability Certification is a 3-year certificate. So a lot of those who were certified in the summer of 2010 are going to be expiring this summer. So I would encourage that when you're reminding some of your teachers who are going through the process again to select a portfolio that is related to what makes the most sense for their classroom environment. Another feature that was released in the fall of 2012 is the option to use Gold integrated with the Common Core state standards. So on the screen here, what you're seeing is the Gold that you're used to looking at, the levels across the top and our indicators. And for those customers that are using Gold now, a lot of them are using Gold for kindergarten entry assessment or just Gold for kindergarten. They have chosen to use this version of Gold that has the Common Core state standards integrated. And when those users are logging in, they're seeing the progressions with the Common Core elements embedded into the progressions. I just wanted to point this out to you. I know that it's not necessarily related to exactly what you're doing for the Head Start standards in Kansas, but I just wanted you to know that this is something that was released in the fall. The other feature that was released this November, which I'm sure you're all aware of, is the Teaching Strategies Gold documentation app. This was something that was really well received by all of our customers. And an interesting fact about our documentation app was last week on April 18th, 9,500 pieces of documentation were uploaded into Gold by teachers using the Gold documentation app. And I know we've had days where it's been over 10,000, but it seems to hover right around that 9,000 mark during the weekdays. So as you can see, teachers are really taking advantage of the ability to use the app to streamline their process of observing children in their classroom. Some of the feedback that we've gotten about the app would be that teachers want to be able to record those preliminary ratings and when they're entering in documentation. And many of you may already know this, that in the fall of 2013, we're going to be releasing the app version 2.0, and that will include the ability for teachers to make those preliminary ratings for the documentation that they're uploading into the app. The other big piece of feedback that we get about the app is that customers would like to be able to use the app with an Android product. And we are still, at this time, searching for the best partner to work with on the development of an app for an Android. So we still do not have a timeline for that because we're still looking for the right partner to build the app that would be able to be used on an Android. But as soon as that's available, we'll have a big announcement about that and know that it is something that we are working towards. The other update that we've had, and part of this is something that you're very familiar with, we released last spring the Comparative Report, which allows you to look at your information as it relates to our scaled scores for our areas and domains. And just a few weeks ago, though, we added an additional feature in the comparative report, which is to look at your data as it relates to our gold readiness points. So I know that we shared with you our paper on the definition of gold readiness, and I just wanted to briefly explain to you again what gold readiness is, and then we'll take a look at how it is defined in one of our reports. So what we did was we analyzed all of the points for the dimensions by area where the blue meets the purple but doesn't overlap. And we've defined that as our kindergarten readiness benchmark. So this is something that you would look at not at the item level, but at the domain or area level on the report. But you can trace it back to each item when we're adding up all the scores to see, the point where the blue meets the purple but doesn't overlap is what we're defining as being ready to enter kindergarten, ready to learn at that beginning of the kindergarten expectation. So what that means when you're looking at a report, as you can see on this screen, is, let me get out my little highlighter here. So this version of the report, when you generate the gold readiness report as one of the options in the comparative report, we're here looking at the social emotional area. And when you choose to view the report in the detailed view, you can choose to include both our widely held expectations with this gold readiness benchmark. Okay? So the widely held expectations, of course, as you all know, are the ranges of the color bands. So in this case, we're looking at the pre-K widely held expectations, which is the blue color band, and the range for the blue pre-K color band for social emotional is 589 to 690. Now, that kindergarten readiness, gold readiness benchmark is 595, okay? Which, as you can see, of course, is falling within that range for that blue color band, okay? So the information that we're looking at here, we're seeing that 8 children are emerging to that readiness benchmark. 4 have accomplished it. And then, if you want to kind of dig down further, you can look at how children are comparing to the widely held expectations as well and see what the average score is. So, looking over here, the average score is 591.5. The gold readiness benchmark is 595. So, that is quite close as far as reaching that gold readiness benchmark for the average. And then also to note, this is the fall checkpoint, and I would say usually you would be running this report and comparing your spring checkpoint data to that readiness benchmark information. So, when you're running the report, it is helpful to have the widely held expectation information as well, so that you can see, what the range is for the widely held expectations, as well as the number of children that you're having they're below meeting or exceeding that widely held expectation, and look at it in comparison to that gold readiness benchmark. And I do know that there were a few questions related to gold readiness, so before I move on, I just wanted to see if anyone wanted to type in a question in the chat box, or if anyone had any questions before I went on to the next slide. Is anyone typing anything in, Eric?
Yeah. Casey, did you want to ask your question? I unmuted you, so I hope we can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, well, maybe not. Okay, her question is, when will the comparison report allow us to go to the dimension level?
The comparative report is meant to be looked at a more global level at this time. So we don't have scaled scores down at the item level, and the purpose for the comparative report was to look at items more at that global or domain area. So right now, we don't have any plans to make the comparative report down at that dimension level. Okay. Any other questions?
No, no other questions. I guess there's just response that, this is, I guess that's something that would be extremely helpful and a very good report if you were able to have the comparison report go down to the dimension level. That'd be very helpful.
Okay. Yeah, no, that is definitely good feedback, and it's something that we've heard before, of course. So I will make sure that I take that back to our research director and see what, if anything, can be done to dig down deeper into the item level information for that specific report. Okay. Great. Moving on to the next report that has been recently updated, that would be the growth report. And what we did, a lot of you, I'm sure, ran the report in before we made these changes, and a lot of the feedback that we were hearing about it was that when it was saying the type of growth, meeting, exceeding, et cetera, people were really struggling with the way that we were naming that field. And so we kind of went back and took a look at a better way to look at this information and display this information that would be more meaningful to everybody after listening to all of the feedback that we had received. So when you go through the steps now to generate the growth report, what you will see is, once again, this is a report that's looking at information at the area level. And I just pulled out a screenshot of the social emotional piece. And so we're looking, you'll have a chart that gives you a growth summary as at the top of the report. And it gives you the number of children that are included, number that were below the growth range, the percentage of children that were below, and then the number of children that were meeting or above the growth range, as well as that percentage. So that's one piece that is new and added to the report. And then you're able to look at the chart that's on the bottom here. This is now looking at the information based on the raw scores and not at the scaled scores. We will be adding the ability to look at this through the scaled scores too, and that should be coming out sometime in the summer. But we, for this release, it is just analyzing the information based on the scaled scores. So it will give you, of course, the starting score and the ending score based on the parameters that you had chosen in your selection screen. And then, of course, the difference between those 2 points would be the actual or average amount of growth. And then you see that you get what right here is the growth range. And that, of course, is going to be the number of points that the child score is expected to change from starting in the fall checkpoint to the ending checkpoint. And this range is specific to the age or class grade at the starting fall checkpoint and the area of development. So the range is going to vary based on which domain or area of development that you're looking at. The growth range was developed by our research team, and we have a paper that goes through the explanation of our normative growth range samples and explains how we derived with this information. So I know that that's available on our website, and I can certainly send that to Eric at the end of the call if you want to dig down deeper into the information behind our growth ranges and how it relates to our normative sample. So that the growth range is going to be listed there, and then depending on your score and what our growth range is, you'll have a type of growth that will be listed there as either meeting or not meeting. So if the average or actual amount of growth is below the bottom number in the range, then the growth is not meeting the range of expected growth. And of course, if the average of actual amount of growth is within or above the range, the growth will be considered meeting the range of expected growth. And then you have the option to take a look at the percent quartiles that are listed there on the right-hand side of the screen. And when you're marked in that 0 to 24th percent range, then your score is less than the bottom of the growth range. So the bottom of the growth range in this case would be below 1. Okay, so there would be like a negative growth range at that point. If the score is in the bottom of the growth range up to just less than the mean of the growth range, so in this case it would be 1 through 7.5, then you're in this second quartile here. And then if the score is the mean of the growth range to less than the top number of the growth range, then you're in that 50 to 74th percentile. And if you're above, if you're greater than the top of the growth range, then you're in that 75th to 100th percentile. Okay, and all of this information and definition of these quartiles is available in the document that was sent out explaining all of the information about the new growth report. So I know that was sent out along with, I think, the growth, with the gold readiness information. So I think that Ashley had forwarded that on to Eric, and he had sent it out to everybody. Any questions about the growth report before I move on? Because I know that one's a little bit different from the way that you were used to looking at it.
We've got a couple comments. It says that reports that give data by the area of development, for instance, social, emotional, are not very helpful. There are too many factors in the social emotional area, and we need to know what specific areas children are growing or not growing in. So, for instance, they'd like to know how many children are at level 6 for 2A. So, kind of needing some more very specific and not for the area of development.
Okay.
And then I received another question as well. I guess the question is, does that, I think they're referring to the growth report, does that show up when you log in to the testing site? I'm not sure I understand the question.
I don't think I know what that means.
Okay. I will try to get...
I mean, so when you log in to Gold, all of you have access to the growth report on the administrator side of the system.
Okay. If that doesn't answer the question, then yeah, please ask again. Ask again with some more specifics for us. Okay.
Sounds good. Okay. Great. All right. So the next piece of the presentation, I want to share with you a new report that we're piloting actually with several of the programs that are on the call today. It hasn't started, the pilot has not started yet, but we've been working with Eric to identify some good candidates to be part of a new report that we're working on called a goals report. That's what we're calling it right now. And I'm going to show you some screenshots of what it may look like when we're releasing it. But the programs that are currently on the list to be part of this pilot would be Heartland, Early Childhood Connections, Futures Unlimited, Community Action, Inc., USD 383, and Southeast Kansas Community Action. So right now, those programs are on the list to be part of the pilot for this new report. And what that means is that we will be reaching out to you sometime in the next two weeks or so to set up a call to talk through how this report is going to work for your program and the information that you would like to have generated based on this report. So a couple of things to understand about this report is that it's actually not functionality that you're able to log in and play around with at this time. We're approaching this report a whole different way from some of the other reports that we've created, in that we're working with you to talk through the exact information that you'd like to see on your goals report, and then we're behind the scenes creating the output of the report just basically through Excel and through one of our programmers extracting your data and plugging it into a template that they have, and then generating the information to share with you. So it's very, very labor intensive for the person who's working on it behind the scenes at Teaching Strategies. But I think that our approach to go through the pilot this way is going to end up resulting in a report that really meets the needs of you and others who are part of this pilot, so that when we actually have the report available for everybody when we release it, we're hopefully not going to get questions like, why didn't you think of X, Y, and Z, because we're doing all that legwork now. So what I'll show you in the next few screens are just kind of like the concept behind this report, and then what the potential output will be. So the goals report is going to end up being you deciding, either your own set of goals that you're creating for a specific age group in your program, that then either your directors would run, or you would run, you would have classrooms run for you, or you would be running on your own. So you would either be able to define your own goals or use goals that we have in the system, such as our readiness benchmark. You could use that as an option. So this is just kind of a sample screen where you would be deciding which age group are you analyzing and whether or not you're planning to use this report just at your login level, or if you're sharing it with others. Then on the next screen, what you would do, or what you would think through, is what items do I want to analyze? So one of the feedback that we had gotten on the last few screens when I was showing the reports that are just at the area level, this report is going to allow you to say, well, I really care about this specific item, so you're able to analyze this at the item level. So you would identify which items are important for you to look at and set goals for. And you can do, of course, multiple under each domain or area. And then on the next screen, you would identify, for example, for this, we're looking at Objective 8, Dimension A, Comprehends Language. And you can see down here, you're able to define your program goal for this item. Okay, so maybe for all the children that are in your pre-K classrooms, you're going to define your goal for the end of the year to be level 8. And so you would define that as your program goal, and you could do that for as many items as you selected on that previous screen. Or you could use, a Teaching Strategies defined goal meaning, one of our readiness benchmark or the end of a widely held expectation. It's, there would be options for that. Then on this screen, you have the ability to say you'd like to compare your data to your custom goal set, which is what you would have been selecting on those previous screens, or the gold readiness goals. Okay. And then, it would display in different various ways, and that's one of the pieces that we're still working on through this pilot. But an example of an output for what this would look like, and this is what the people in the pilot will be getting charts like this. This is showing the blue is representing your group for the fall 11-12, and then the spring 11-12. And you would be able to see the progress that your program is making towards meeting your goals for each one of those items. So that's a sample of what the output would look like. You would also be able to, and I can go back and answer questions. I just want to show this other chart too, and I can answer some questions. But the other piece would be, you'd be able to also analyze your information based on demographics too, and that's what this chart is showing. Any questions on the goals report?
Yeah, so we got a couple questions. One is, so program goals can be set for every age?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then if we pick a level 5, would it also include children in levels 6, 7, and 8?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, the meeting would be defined. We kind of would merge that into being considered meeting. Mm-hmm.
Into meeting. Okay. All right. Are there any questions? I think that was. Okay. Nothing else.
Okay, great. And we're really excited to have a lot of you participating in this pilot. So, just know that you'll be getting an email and a phone call soon from Ashley to set up next steps. We're pretty much ready on our end, but as you can imagine, behind the scenes, what's going to be happening as far as extracting data and plugging it into spreadsheets and things that are beyond my skill set when it comes to Excel is rather intensive. So we're just getting everything ready, and we're looking forward to working with you all on this and hearing your feedback. So hopefully you are excited too. Okay. Before I turn it over to Ashley, I just wanted to go through a few other pieces of things that we're working on as it relates to developments in GOLD. The first is, I know a lot of you are familiar with our Teacher Quick Start user guide, and we do have an administrator's version of that coming out in May sometime. So look for an announcement about that, and that'll be available for download. And that's just kind of a technical guide with screenshots on how to use the administrator features of the system. We also are working on a recent reports page, and what that means is the system's going to save reports that you have recently run, and it's going to be focusing on the snapshot and the assessment status report. So if you run that report, it's going to save it in a reports queue for you for up to 30 days. So that's something that we're looking to release in the summer, and when there's more detailed information to show you what that looks like and what that all means, we'll make sure to get that out to you as well. Also, over the summer, you're going to be able to add multiple users at one time. So, as you have new staff coming, instead of doing that one by one, you'll be able to add multiple users at one time, so that'll help you with that process. We also are going to, in September, have the ability, if you're using that Family Central portal that allows you to share documentation with family members. Something that we've heard quite a bit from teachers is that they want to be able to share multiple pieces of documentation at one time with parents, and that's going to be available in the fall as well. So that's exciting for teachers to be able to do that. So those are some of the other things that we're working on. And I'm going to turn it over to Ashley to talk about a few other new things that we're working on, and then we can have more time for questions and answers at the end, too.
Hey, Suzanne, can we do one more follow-up question
Sure.
from that last piece?
Yeah, no problem.
There was one question that came. It says, will it only include children that have been in both checkpoints?
For the goals report?
Yes. At least
I believe
that's the question related to.
Yeah. So I'm not 100% sure, but that is something that you would, I'm pretty certain, be able to just stipulate as far as your parameters when you're running the data. So, when we go through the pilot, we would say to you, do you only want us to include children with criteria matching all these checkpoint seasons? But that's pretty much a standard thing that we ask and that we're adding into all of the reports.
Okay, so that'll be one of the features, or one of the options you can choose which checkpoints to include. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And certainly make sure that when you're having those conversations with us about the pilot that you ask that very question too.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Ashley, it's all you.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. So I do want to just go over a few more of the product updates. And so we do have some new fidelity resources that were created to help individuals to provide the direct classroom support to measure fidelity, and then ultimately be able to guide teachers toward optimal implementation. And so you'll see that we have the Coaching to Fidelity, the Fidelity Checklist for Teachers, and then the Fidelity Tool. And so these three are in a bundle. They are $199.95. And so the bundle is going to include the Coaching to Fidelity book, which is a 112-page guide. That's really going to be used for follow-up with specific strategies for improvement. And then it's also going to have 5 of the Fidelity checklists for teachers and 5 of the Fidelity tools for administrators. And you can also purchase those 2 individually as well if you need some additional refills. So the Fidelity tool for administrators is going to really be applicable for the coaches or the master teachers, or really just any outside observer. It's going to provide guidance, on how to evaluate evidence of implementation, how to calculate scores that are going to measure overall fidelity. And then the Fidelity Checklist for Teachers is really a starting point for a teacher's self-assessment and self-improvement. And so it is going to include, a detailed itemized checklist of implementation items, and then some help to illuminate some areas that might need some additional strengthening as well. So again, these fidelity resources are going to really guide teachers towards that optimal implementation. So we also are going to have some online courses as well to kind of coach the coaches. And so we're going to have more information about that soon. That's going to be coming out as well to kind of offer some additional support with those principal resources that you just saw. We also are going to have a family guide to Teaching Strategies Gold, and that's going to be available this summer. So we spoke to programs that were using the family feature and Family Central, and really just a lot of the families wanted some more details about Gold Online. What should an observation look like, and then really kind of making sure that they have full understanding of the Family Central piece as well. So the family guide is going to be about 20 pages or so. It will be available for a download, and then you can also email it to families as well, since it will be available as a PDF. And part 1 is going to really kind of focus on understanding the assessment system, and then part 2 on using Teaching Strategies Gold Online. So that'll be a really great resource for looping in the family members and making sure that they really do understand that ongoing observation-based assessment system. And then next, we have the digital curriculum link to Teaching Strategies Gold Online. So this isn't, technology for technology's sake, but really using technology to leverage that connection between the curriculum and the assessment, so that teachers really have a more meaningful, are able to provide more meaningful individualized instruction within the context of those ongoing project-based investigations. So they can really spend more time with children and less time planning. So you'll see when we get to this next slide how the intentional teaching cards, if you don't mind flipping through the next slide. So the intentional teaching cards are going to be pre-filled with the children's names. So this will be available likely under the planning tab and the documentation tab, so that you can really make the use of all of that hard work that they've been putting into the assessments. They'll obviously be able to individualize their instruction and be able to see firsthand where they should really focus their attentions within those intentional teaching cards. So this is not going to be included within the regular pricing. There will be some different pricing options to add to your subscription. Of course, we will share more information as that is available, but we do want you to know that this is on the horizon. So hopefully you will definitely see the link then between the curriculum and the assessment. So we're pretty excited about this additional piece that's coming up. And then a lot of programs as well are not taking full advantage of our YouTube channel. And so we do have a YouTube channel where we have different testimonials from programs that are using Teaching Strategies Gold. We also have how-to videos, which are a really great feature for Gold Online. They're typically about 3 minutes apiece. We also have classroom practices, which are about 10 minutes apiece as well. And so that's a really great resource to be able to watch at your convenience. And then we also will post our webinars there. So whether that is assessment-focused or curriculum-focused, typically about 40 to 50 minutes apiece. And again, the nice thing is you can watch these at your convenience. And so this is a free resource available to you. When you go to our website, teachingstrategies.com, you will see a link for our YouTube channel. And so we certainly recommend that you take advantage of all of the wonderful professional development available for you from both the curriculum and from the assessment perspective. Okay. So at this point, I think we are ready for some questions and answers, and if there's anything that we can go over again, we are happy to do so.
I know that we spent a lot of time answering questions throughout the presentation too, so don't feel obligated. So Eric, just let us know if there are any other follow-up items you wanted to discuss. And I know that you wanted to spend some time talking to everybody too. I know we've hogged up a lot of your time.
Oh, that's
so
fine.
I apologize.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah, if people have further questions, yeah, just either chat them to us or use the question feature, and we'll get them answered. I think, yeah, I guess maybe, yeah, since we are limited in time, we only have about 5 minutes left. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. My idea was to have these meetings be quarterly. And so if people have agenda items between webinars, then you can send them to me or Suzanne or Ashley, and we can make sure to get them on the agenda. If not, answer them before. But then this will be a time for Teaching Strategies to continue giving us updates and for us to give feedback and ask questions. So as long as this format works okay with everyone, and it seems like it has been, but you guys can send me your feedback either by email or give me a call if you need to make other suggestions. But I think we'll go ahead and plan the future webinar for July 22nd from 2 to 3. And so yeah, just send me the agenda items, and then we'll get that scheduled, and so people can get registered for the webinar. And then as Ashley or Suzanne or anybody else has announcements that need to be communicated immediately, I'm communicating with users in a couple ways. One is through Constant Contact. We have that listserv that we set up, and many of you have signed yourselves up for that, and others I signed you up myself so you'd receive those emails. So if you within your agency have not received an email like within the past 6 months through Constant Contact, either it's going to your spam, so check your spam, or you're not on the list. So if you do want to be on that list, please email me and let me know, and I can get you on that list. But I've also been just using Outlook email through my Gmail account to email everybody as well, because I've noticed that there have been several unopened emails through Constant Contact, and I think that just has to do with it. Lots of spam filters, I think, catch Constant Contact emails as being spam, and it doesn't get to your inbox. So hopefully I'll continue to be able to send those emails out in both ways, so hopefully you all receive those announcements as they come to me. And then we'll continue to do the host the quarterly calls to do that as well. So I don't know if Suzanne or Ashley, do you guys have any listservs or anything that you use to communicate to users?
I mean, aside from on our website, you can sign up for various marketing groups and identify which ones that you want to be part of. I would highly recommend that everybody signs up for not necessarily all the marketing emails, but they are quite useful. There's some when you get into Gold Online, there are some listservs and community pages. So let me see if I can pull that up really quickly. Yeah, so when you're in Gold Online and you're over on your dashboard page, hold on here, slowly but surely. There are learning communities, and there are lots of great postings and resources in there. So I would recommend being part of that if you can.
Okay.
And that you're not going to get a ton of things, but right here on this communities page, you can sign up to be part of the Gold Online Learning Community, and that's not a marketing effort. That's for Gold Online users.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay, good. So yeah, that's another resource then. So yeah, but if you or anybody else in your agency wants to receive emails from me, oftentimes it's just forwards that are coming from Ashley. Then please, please let me know so I can get you on that list.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to be on that. Absolutely.
Okay. And I think that is it. So I'll get this webinar is being recorded, so this will hopefully be posted soon on our new website, and everyone will have access to it. And then we'll just plan on sending out another registration for our next webinar, July 22nd, from 2 to 3. So if anybody has questions, I suppose type them now or forever hold your peace, or at least until you get an email or the next webinar. So it looks like we're not getting anything else. So all right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much for setting this up. We really appreciate the opportunity.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, I think this will be great way for everybody to have more communication. So this is great. Okay. All right. Well, everybody have a great afternoon. We'll see you later.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.